Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Patrick here, and this is the complete story of Twitch Plays Pokemon Generation 1. So we start day 1 all the way through to day 16. Hope you guys enjoy. So our story begins in Pallet Town, where our main character gets named Red, and he acquires a Charmander. The name of the Charmander is ABBBBBK, or short for Abby. From there, we leave Pallet Town and head out and catch 2 Rattatas. Now, the first one that we catch is named JLVWNOOOO, or more commonly referred to as Jay Leno, and the other one does not receive a nickname. We also end up catching a Pidgey. Now, eventually, we make it through Viridian Forest to Pewter City, where we fight Brock and defeat him. Now, not much information is known on how this happened, as there were not many people viewing it at this time, but it is known that we did obviously beat Brock. After acquiring our first gym badge, the Stream, more commonly referred to as the Hive Mind, heads out to Route 3, where they catch a Sparrow. They then later move on to Mount Moon, where they find a Moonstone and a Nugget, but both are quickly tossed after finding them. After this, we are faced with the choice of the Helix or the Dome fossil. We choose the Helix fossil, and it becomes our god figure that most of the fans worship. The other one, the Dome fossil, becomes the devil equivalent. The Hive survives the trek through Mount Moon and arrives in Cerulean City, where they then head north to defeat Nugget Bridge and meet Bill, who gives them an SS ticket. From there, they manage to defeat Misty and acquire their second gym badge. We then traveled to Vermilion City, where we traded a Sparrow for a Farfetch'd named Dux. Shortly after that, we took on the SS Anne and acquired the HM Cut that we taught to our newly acquired Farfetch'd not soon after. Soon after, we cut the tree outside of the Vermilion City gym and entered, defeating all of the trainers. Miraculously, as some say it was an act of the Helix, we managed to solve the gym's puzzle in one single try. After this, the Hive Mind defeated Lieutenant Surge, with most credit going towards Abby the Charmeleon. After winning our third gym badge, we caught a Drowsy and then returned to Cerulean City, where we faced the toughest challenge yet, the Ledge. It took almost an entire day to beat it due to the constant trolls of people pressing down when we were trying to scale it to the right. We finally beat it. Many argue that this was simply the Helix testing us, seeing if we had the perseverance. After beating it, we certainly had the unity of one. We then made our way through Rock Tunnel, and Rattata, not to be confused with Jay Leno, was taught the move Dig. Little did we know that this was the biggest mistake we would ever make. Soon after, Rattata used Dig in Rock Tunnel to teleport us back outside, making us start the whole mission over again. This earned him the nickname of Digrat. The Hive Mind finally made it through Rock Tunnel and arrived in Lavender Town, only to quickly travel again to Celadon City, where they made numerous attempts at sending Digrat to the PC. They finally succeeded, and were very lucky that they didn't accidentally release a Pokemon. This time. The Hive Mind then went to fight the Grass-type gym leader Erica, but were thwarted before they could make it to her. In their next attempt, Pidgeot dominated the gym and received the name Bird Jesus for his valiant efforts. He was now seen as a prophet sent by Helix. Shortly after acquiring the 4th gym badge, the team realized that they would need a Pokemon capable of learning Surf, or they would not be able to beat the game. They decided on acquiring an Eevee in hopes of evolving it into a Vaporeon. They did manage to get the Eevee, but their attempts at buying a Water Stone failed as they accidentally bought a Firestone instead. Most members of the Hive Mind were quite distraught, as they had no more money to purchase another stone, and Flareon is considered to be the worst of the 3 evolutions in Generation 1. Their solution to this problem was going to the daycare to deposit a Pokemon instead of the PC, as the daycare has no risk of accidentally releasing a Pokemon. They tried to maneuver the ledges of the daycare, but it just wasn't working. They were going to have to use the PC if they wanted to open up another slot to get a water Pokemon. This time they were not as lucky and ended up releasing both Abby and Jay Leno from the party. This was a huge blow, as Abby was one of their best Pokemon and Jay Leno was a pretty freaking cool name if you ask me. And to make matters worse, Digrat was retrieved from the PC. This put all hope of success into Bird Jesus, as Abby was their only other good Pokemon. The Hive was outraged and blamed Eevee for their problems. He received the nickname the False Prophet, sent by the Dome fossil to thwart the Helix. We then traveled back to Celadon City to fight Team Rocket at the game corner. As expected, Digrat dug us out after not very much success. Upon re-entering, the Firestone was used on Eevee and it became a Flareon. We continued to attempt to make it to Giovanni, but unfortunately, Digrat continued to mess things up. We realized our only hope of beating the rocket lair was if we deposited Digrat. Unfortunately, we accidentally deposited Bird Jesus instead. The stream then realized that Bird Jesus was our only hope of success and decided to try and withdraw him. We were successful. The hive mind then spent countless hours trying to make it through the rocket lair with no avail. This was all due to the fault of Digrat. At some time during these failings, a new system was put in place called the democratic system. It allowed for people to vote on the player's next move instead of everyone just randomly shouting out what choice they want to happen. This started what we call the Start 9 riots. People got extremely frustrated because they wanted the old system put in place. And with this new system, there was also a thing that how it worked was you could type in how many times you press the command. So you could do left 2 and the character would move to the left twice. People started putting in Start 9s as in protest to say, no, we don't want this system. And it was shortly moved back to the old system, which we now call Anarchy. After many more dig mishaps in the rocket lair, we again decided to try and deposit Digrat. Except this time, we accidentally deposited the fake prophet, Flareon, and Drowsy. A new system called the Anarchy versus Democracy tug-of-war chart was put into place. Essentially how it worked was people would vote for what sort of system they would want, and whenever one got to 75%, that would take over until the next one would go over to 75%. People were again very outraged at this, however, people did make more progress on the democracy system. After lots of feuding, eventually Anarchy won over and we went back to this continual system of Digrat teleporting out. At one point, after a very frustrating teleport, we made the decision that we were going to release Flareon, the false prophet. To much avail, it did happen, and Drowsy was withdrawn. Drowsy was nicknamed the Keeper, as he was the one who supposedly stopped Flareon from escaping from the PC. After much teleporting, we eventually got the lift key and made it to Giovanni, where we experienced a very tense battle. It was down to our Bird Jesus versus his Kangaskhan. Bird Jesus had 8 HP left, his Kangaskhan had very minimal HP. Bird Jesus used Whirlwind, but it did nothing. His Kangaskhan used Rage to take it down to 1 HP. Unfortunately, it used Whirlwind again, and it died. This time, we had lost. Revenge set, the team made it back to Giovanni's lair, where Bird Jesus destroyed his Kangaskhan to win the match. Before they could acquire the Self Scope, however, Digrat decided to teleport, and they had to travel once more through the rocket lair to acquire the Self Scope. People were quite angry at Digrat by this point. At some point during this whole mishap, we managed to acquire an Oddish who got named the Seed of Hope. From here, we traveled back to Lavender Town, where we went into the tower and defeated our rival Blue. Realizing that our team are ill-equipped to battle ghosts, the Hive trained our Pokemon through the docks and down into the signage, where they grew quite a few levels. We tried to teach Bird Jesus Swift, but unfortunately Digrat got the TM and they traded it for Thunderbolt. This was a very bad trade. Seeing as Drowsy is a psychic Pokemon, we realized that he was our best bet at taking out the ghosts, and we traveled to Saffron City in an attempt to teach it Psychic. After countless hours, we managed to make it learn Psychic. During these times, the Hive Mind also organized a plan to go to the fighting dojo and acquire one of the Hitmon Pokemon. This succeeded, however, Hitmonlee went to the PC. Hitmonlee was a level 30 and very, very high potential for our team. He would have been another Pokemon that could actually have helped us out. Unfortunately, in the attempt to withdraw him, he got released. Something that really, really shouldn't have happened. Now that we had a Pokemon better equipped to fight ghosts, we left Saffron City and traveled back to Lavender Town, where we started attempting to beat the tower. During one of the many trials of the tower, we caught a Ghastly and named it Rick Ghastly. Now the Pokemon Tower was an absolute blackout fest with very slow progress. It seemed like every time we made an advancement, we would shortly die afterwards. Now once we made it to the 5th floor, things started to speed up a little bit better. You see, on the 5th floor there's a healing pad, and this helped stop the number of blackouts we had. Unfortunately, at the same time, we also made Drowsy lose Psychic for Headbutt. Fortunately, however, at the same time, our only other Pokemon that could damage ghosts, aka Digrat, evolved into Raticate or Big Dig, and Bird Jesus also earned the nickname AAA-BAA-JSS, or Abajesus. After a very, very, very long time, we beat Marowak, defeated Team Rocket, saved Mr. Fuji, and got the Pokeflute. It was now time to move on. The Hive Mind headed south in an attempt to move the sleeping Snorlax located on the docks. We tried to catch him, but unfortunately we failed. At the same time, X-Cabbage evolved into Gloom. After a surplus of trainer battles and a lot of traveling, we finally made it to Fuchsia City. The team went straight to the gym where we had a couple of trainer battles, but then had second thoughts and decided to go to the Safari Zone. Unfortunately, Big Dig dug us out and we were at the doorsteps again. From here, with very damaged Pokemon, we went back to the gym and tried to fight Koga. Obviously, we lost. With revitalized Pokemon and revenge in our hearts, we set back to the Fuchsia City gym to fight Koga. This time we won the battle, earning our 5th gym badge, but victory was not without its losses. Bird Jesus accidentally traded its move Gust for Mirror Move. This was very unfortunate, as Quick Attack was Bird Jesus' only pure damaging move. The Hivemind then headed back to the Safari Zone, where Big Dig continued to dig us out until Democracy kicked in and we eventually got Surf and the Golden Teeth. In total, we caught 5 Nidorans, 2 Venonats, 1 Paris, 1 EXEGGUTOR, 1 Nidorino, 1 Rhyhorn, and a Venomoth named AATTVV. He received the nickname ATV or All-Terrain Venomoth. After beating the Safari Zone in short timing, we then headed back to Saffron City where we made quick work of the Rockets at Silphco. We beat our rivals, got Lapras, which was named Air or Air Jordan. We then attempted to fight Giovanni but lost on our first try and bested him in the second. We now acquired the Master Ball. Our next objective was to beat Sabrina. In our first attempt we lost due to insufficient healing. However, in our second attempt we won. We were then faced with the trouble of leaving the gym. This took many hours, and people often made the joke that leaving the gym was actually harder than beating Sabrina. The 12 hours that followed this victory are often referred to now as the Bloody Sunday. With 6 gym badges under our belt and a Master Ball, we were now faced with the choice of what Pokemon would we catch. There were 5 answers that went up: ZAPDOS, Articuno, Moltres, the Snorlax at Diglett's Tunnel, and Mewtwo. Mewtwo was out of the picture as we had to beat the Elite Four before we could acquire him. Most people didn't want a Snorlax, so we didn't go with that either. Now, Moltres was going to take a little bit more time before we could reach him, so we were faced with the 2 choices of ZAPDOS and Articuno. We went with ZAPDOS. We were going to face the ledge again. We traveled to Cerulean City, beat the ledge, surfed to the power plant, and caught Zapdos in only a mere few hours. It was a miracle. That is, it was a miracle until the events that followed after. We now had to withdraw Zapdos from the PC. In the process, 12 Pokemon were released. Of them, very notable ones included Dux the Farfetch'd, Big Dig the Raticate, and X-Cabbage the Gloom. It was genocide on the largest scale that TheSmithPlays Pokemon had ever known. In only a few hours we had managed to release half our roster, as well as not even acquire Zapdos. Not wanting to risk any more releases, the Hivemind traveled through Rock Tunnel where they then got an idea. They went to the daycare. This time it was a success. They were able to deposit Rick Ghastly, and from the PC, Zapdos was withdrawn. With the nickname AAJ, Zapdos acquired the nickname Anarchy Jesus. The next goal was to travel to Palatown in order to be able to surf to Cinnabar Island. During the journey, we acquired another Moonstone and evolved our Nidorino that had wound up in our party into a Nidoking. He acquired the nickname The Fawns. Air Jordan surfed the team to Cinnabar Island, and at long last, the Helix fossil was revived. Shortly after, the Hivemind withdrew him. Lord Helix was with us. With Nidoking the Fawns, Air Jordan the Lapras, Bird Jesus the Pidgeot, Anarchy Jesus the Zapdos, ATV the Venomoth, and Lord Helix, the team set out to beat the mansion. It took many tries to actually beat the mansion, and at one point, we actually blacked out directly in front of the key. There was another point when we got stuck behind a table and a robber and actually had to black out in order to escape. Eventually we got the gym key, however, and headed to fight Blaine. With most help credited towards Anarchy Jesus, we beat Blaine in a mere 6 turns and got the 7th gym badge. We then headed back to Palatown to deposit some items and then traveled north up to Viridian City. Our next goal was to acquire our 8th gym badge. Now, in theory, this sounded like a pretty easy task, but because there isn't a ledge right outside the gym, it took basically an entire day to get inside and beat Giovanni. However, finally, through the help of Democracy, the Hivemind did make it into Giovanni's gym and successfully defeated him. We had acquired our 8th gym badge, and our eyes were now set on the Elite Four. After a failed Victory Road attempt, the team headed back to the Pokemon Mansion to do a little bit of grinding. We grew a few levels, but not too many. We then headed back and tried to make it through Victory Road. Now, because there's a ledge outside the entrance of the area, people were very hesitant to try this again, but perhaps with the help of Helix, or it was just luck, the team managed to navigate themselves into Victory Road quite swiftly. On this Victory Road attempt, we found the TM Sky Attack and taught it to Bird Jesus, but unfortunately we ended up blacking out. We then went back to the Pokemon Mansion to do a bit more training. After a little bit more grinding, we then headed back to Victory Road where we made it through. Not only this, but Helix evolved into Amistar. At this point, we had two options. We could go back to Victory Road and do some more grinding there. But some people realized that the Elite Four is better experience than simply grinding there. So instead, we opted to just go for it without any concern for blacking out. Now at this point, the Elite Four was very similar to the Pokemon Tower. It seemed like every attempt we made progress, but it was very, very limited. Because our Pokemon were still in the 65 to 35 range, we weren't doing great, but we were gaining some very valuable experience. Eventually, without even really trying, we did make it to Blue, but he quickly disposed of us as our Pokemon were very low in health. Now, after much leveling up, we were ready to take on the Elite Four. It was time to win. Our winning run started off very, very well. Lorelei, Bruno, and Agatha were quickly dealt with as a result of Anarchy Jesus. Lance's dragons proved to be a bigger challenge as they were resistant to our Lightning Bird. Air Jordan and Lord Helix fell, but we had beaten Lance. We had become champions. But wait, someone had just beaten Lance. A familiar face. It was now time to face the true champion. In an epic battle that shook Kanto to its roots, Red challenged Blue, the champion. Things started out incredibly well for us, with ZAPDOS disposing of Bird Jesus Imposter, Pidgeot, and Alakazam with 2 Swift Thunders. It was then Fawn's versus Blue's Rhydon, but because Fawn's knew Surf, he was able to take him out in one shot. ZAPDOS then killed Arcanine with yet another Deadly Thunder. Next, Blue sent out EXEGGUTOR, but with a button combination that looked like a single controlling entity, we countered with Bird Jesus. He rose up into the sky and struck down with Sky Attack. It was now 4-1 for Red. Blue was not done yet, however. Blastoise quickly disposed of Bird Jesus with a Blizzard. It was a devastating blow to the team. It was now Blastoise versus AAJ, Fawns, and ATV. Thinking of those fallen friends like Dux, Digrat, X-Cabbage, Abby, and Jay Leno, we were ready to win. We sent out ZAPDOS, and with one quick Thundershock, we did it. It took 16 days, 7 hours, and 45 minutes, but we had done it. Red had done it, and TwitchPlays Pokemon had done it. We had become the Pokemon League champion. Friends were made and lost, bonds were tied, a community was formed, so was a religion. History was made. In the first stream of TwitchPlays Pokemon, we had succeeded.